when you give business advice to people, which I'm sure you do all the time, what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned during your course of business? And what are some of the biggest fights that you had with people like Bill Gates along the way? Because as somebody, I have a couple of business partners, those fights are fairly constant. I think people don't really tend to see that outside the company, but that sort of stuff is happening all the time behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'd say a few things. Number one, folks have to find something that they're either passionate about or they develop passion about. Not every job or not every career will you have passion about at the start, but sometimes that can really cascade. But you need to look. You actually have to have a plan to see what's out there. I'll give an example. When I was an undergraduate, my dad worked for Ford, but I interviewed with about 32 different companies on campus just to learn. Okay, what is it like to work in the back office of a bank? What does it look like to be an accountant? What does it look like to, be a salesperson? I think it's really important to take that on as a mission to find a passion, not hope you randomly luck out and find one. So that'd be number one. Number two is hard work. There's absolutely, if you're working harder than the person who's doing your job in your competitor, that gives you more grace. It gives you more opportunity to if you will, make a mistake, because you're going to work it through. You're going to catch up. So I absolutely believe that hard work is critical. The thing I have learned, I think, a little bit since Microsoft is you need to still retain a little bit of brain space, a little more brain space to speculate on what may come next. If you become a dreamer, not going to work. If you become totally a grinder, not going to work. So that would be number two. And then number three, let's face it, there is an element of luck. And I think people like to act like, well, I'm a master of the universe because I didn't have any help before. I did it all on my brain power, my hard work, and energy. And I don't think I think that's unfair. I think there is a clear element of luck in this game. So I would highlight those three things. Then if you become a leader of a business, I think there's important things to really think about. Number one, be long-term in your perspective. If you're trying to build something, things don't arrive overnight. Number two, I like to tell businesses to get in the weight room. Build new skills. Before you know you need them, you have to be building skills, building talent, do the recruiting, create a sense of optimism in your business. Colin Powell, we had him come speak one time to our executive staff, and he emphasized that optimism is a force multiplier. Businesses really need that kind of optimism. Leadership. Leadership is about thought leadership. It's not just about people leadership. If you're very charismatic and you're running off a cliff, more people are going to follow you off the cliff. So damn, man, you better pick the right direction. I don't know, just a little bit of food for thought.
Yeah, there are a couple of things there that I want to hone in on a little bit. The first one that you mentioned, which is passion for the thing. Again, when I talk with folks who are very successful, there is this kind of bizarre idea out there that they became very successful because they're constantly thinking about money. Not a single person I know who has founded a successful company originally thought predominantly about the money. They thought more about the idea of the business and why they were enchanted with the idea of spreading that business. In fact, it's almost the reverse. If you think too much about the money when you're first starting a business, you actually end up doing the wrong thing. I remember when I was in law school and I was interviewing for law firm jobs, and I really had no interest in working at a law firm. And so I remember being in an interview and somebody said, "So why do you want to work at a law firm?" And I gave the honest answer, which was for the money, because the starting salary was like $180,000 a year. And that was the wrong answer, as it turns out. And I thought to myself, well, but that's true. Nobody's joining a law firm because they want to work 2,200 billable hours a year, doing doc review in the back room. But the reality is that the employers looked at that answer, and what they were recognizing is that if you are in it for the money, you're not going to stay in it. If you start a business because you think that that's the thing, that's where the money is, then you're not going to have the passion to go through the hard times, because the minute that the money doesn't come, you're just going to move on to the next thing.
I agree with you. If you're trying to have that kind of drive to do something new. Now, for some people, I think people elect a profession where they say, hey, I can make, with greater certainty, I can have a very nice lifestyle if I pick this profession. I'm sure some lawyers do that, and that's okay. It's not all about the money. It's not about getting rich, but hey, with relatively low risk, I have a chance of doing relatively well. This will sound a little bit off, but I think some of that is also true in getting into the investment business, whether it's venture capital or private equity or even advising corporations on finance. Those jobs pay well, or consulting. And capitalism works on this in the sense that, if you look at top graduates of top schools who go into business, guess what? While the kids will say they don't care about the money, the jobs that pay do attract the highest percentage of the people. I'm a big believer that markets actually are very efficient. If you put an incentive out there and it appeals to somebody, it's going to work.
Yeah, one of the other things you mentioned there was the luck aspect. And there certainly is a luck aspect to what works and what doesn't. And sometimes things you don't think are going to work definitely do. But there are some studies that suggest that one of the things that distinguishes successful leaders from unsuccessful leaders is actually how much they attribute their success to luck in a way that you wouldn't sort of expect, which is successful leaders, when something goes right, they tend to attribute that to luck. And when you're an unsuccessful leader, you tend to attribute bad things happening to luck. So if you're a successful leader, you think everything that's going wrong is my fault. Everything that's going right, that's luck. And if you're a bad leader, you tend to think everything that's going right, that's me. And everything that's going wrong, that's luck. And so I think that, you're almost naturally doing that. When you say success is luck, what you really mean by that, I think, and what a lot of us mean when we say that is because I'm expected to put in the work. And if I fail, then that's something I can fix. That's probably something that's my own fault. The minute that you attribute your failure to luck, you're now saying that your own success is outside of your purview.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, to me, it's another way of saying not everything is controllable. You can control, we say this in basketball too, as owner of the LA Clippers, control what you can control. You can control how much work you put in. You can work on your kind of mental mindset so you really can be, okay, miss that one, next play, next play, next play. Can I tell you just a short Microsoft story that sort of confirmed my view of luck. Within a month after me coming to Microsoft, we got a call for some guys from IBM, and IBM was the behemoth of computing in 1980. People might not know that now. Younger people, my kids who are in the late 20s and 30s, they'll say, "What does that company do anyway?" But back then, they were the computer industry. And these guys call and they say, "Hey, we want to come talk to you about something. We're not going to tell you what it's about. And you'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then we'll tell you, and that's how it'll work." And we said, "Okay, when do you want to come?" And they said, "Well, we're down the street now." I don't know. I may be being a little bit exaggerational, but it sticks in my head. And so all good, and they wanted to buy an operating system from us for the PC they said they were going to build. Whoa! Now, we didn't have an operating system. We had a bunch of language software, and there was some confusion because we had licensed one for a variety of reasons. Anyway, we say we don't have one, but we really wanted them in the PC business. So we literally called the number one operating systems company at the time, a company called Digital Research, and said, "We're going to put some guys on the phone, treat them right." And IBM talked to them, same spiel they gave us. They fly down there, but the CEO at the time was out flying. His wife, who was a business partner of his, was there, refused to sign the non-disclosure agreement. We then said, "Hey, we'll get you an operating system. And if there isn't some luck in that, I don't know what luck is." So early on in my business career, we were the great beneficiary of good luck.
So one of the other questions I asked earlier it was sort of about how you navigate conflicts in the boardroom. How do you deal with top-level conflicts? I'm going to take this advice, again, with my own business partners.
Yeah, I would say you really have to work things out, and people have different personalities. From the time Paul Allen, who co-founded Microsoft, retired in about '83 after dealing with Hodgkin's disease, I was basically the number 2 guy at Microsoft and number 1 business guy, and Bill and I would tussle about things. And there was a certain way we'd work them out. They were never decided in one cataclysmic meeting. There was a lot of struggle and body punching and minor gives, and we worked it out. 20 years later, Bill asked me to be CEO of the company. And I said, do you really want me to be CEO? Like the number 1 guy, and you're going to be the number 2 guy, and you're going to do the tech? And he said, yes. Well, guess what? We barely talked for that first year. It was very hard for us to figure out how to reverse roles. And even after, I would say, it took a while before I really felt comfortable in taking freedom of action. So it is tricky. It is absolutely tricky, and I suspect, if you get 2 hardheads, I call Bill and I 2 hardheads. It's a little bit different than if you have 2 different personalities. Somebody who's a little quieter but no less steely versus a hardhead, and everybody works it out in their own way, I guess, or don't work it out and things blow up.